Well, good morning. We are grateful for you to be here this morning for our next installment of Sunday School in the Sanctuary. And as we get started this morning, just a couple of housekeeping rules for you, or information more so than rules. But this morning I want to remind you that if you have an offering and you have not been able to get to your secretary, who is the one who normally handles the envelope in your Sunday school class, you can do a couple of things. You can go find them right now. You can put it in the offering plate right now, or you can put it in the offering plate after Sunday school. Or you can put it on the back banister back here, and our Sunday school directors will get it. And so just be aware there's a lot of different options for getting your offering turned in this morning. One other piece of housekeeping for you is next Sunday, May the 19th, was the day that Dennis Siegel would be teaching our Sunday School in the Sanctuary. And so with Dennis being at Asheville in rehab following his stroke a week and a half ago, Al Kohler will be teaching in his place, but for those that are in Dennis's class, we're not going to ignore you. We're still going to give you a chance to share about your class and let people see who is in that class in case they're interested in coming to that class. And so we will handle next week's introduction just a little differently, seeing as how Dennis won't be able to be with us. But nevertheless, we're going to get started this morning, and Terry Childers is our teacher this morning. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, because I'm in Terry's Sunday school class when I'm not teaching the youth class right now, be prepared. He asks questions and he expects responses. And he'll do that whole sit there and stare at you thing until somebody answers, so it can get awkwardly quiet, okay? So somebody throw out an answer even if you know it's wrong. Yeah, and you can't ask the teacher questions. I forgot that. So don't ask him questions, and if he asks you a question, answer it. No. So Terry, just like I've done with the other classes, other teachers, I'm going to ask you the same couple of questions. So the first question is, how long have you been worshiping here at Oak Ridge? Sounds like it, yeah.
It's the button? Oh, okay. A magic button. I was 12 years old, and most of you know, some of you don't care. But my family had passed Oak Ridge every Sunday morning when the road was dirt out here, gravel, and we went to Ichard to Shouts Grove. And when I was 12, one Sunday morning, Dad turned in here in the parking lot, and he joined Oak Ridge. And we came. So I I was 12, so that's 63 years ago. Yeah.
So you've been worshiping here for 63 years, and how long have you been teaching a Sunday school class here?
On and off, because I taught a while and not a while and taught a while, and then Patsy came along and I thought I should again. I don't know. That wasn't an answer. Okay.
I was waiting for a number, but okay.
I don't know.
30 or 40 years off and on?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. And the last and final question is, what sets your class apart or is unique to your class that is different from the other classes?
We got Al, who is a walking Bible encyclopedia. You need to spend some time with Al. He is the most knowledgeable person of the Bible that I've ever been around. And we got Larry in the other corner. So we've got, see, Al and Larry. Okay?
Yeah, so
we kind of balance each other out.
Our class does a breakfast on the fifth Sunday mornings as well, and that's not like Rob's class every Sunday morning. But we do on every fifth Sunday have breakfast, and everybody brings something in, and we share in fellowship. And so that is the introduction for Terry's class. Terry's class is directly through that door across the hall in the choir room. And so if you're interested after the Sunday School in the Sanctuary ends, feel free to come and join us for Sunday School. So I'm going to ask, if you're in Terry's Sunday School class, if you would stand up for me for just a few moments, so that anybody that might not be in a Sunday school class can find you and talk with them. I'm in that Sunday school class. Misty's in that class. Terry is, obviously. So you guys can be seated, and we appreciate you being here this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to Terry and let him get you started with Sunday school in the sanctuary.
Thank you, Nick. Well, good morning. I hope everybody has a handout. We're going to be following that as kind of an outline and a discussion guide. So if you don't, you're not going to be as good as you would otherwise. Let me move over here toward the middle. I have need of having a central point here. Misty and Savannah know that in the choir, so I got to have a central point here so that I feel comfortable left and right. We're going to be in 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, and later in the 12th chapter. So if you want to turn there and join us, we're going to be talking about unity of the church. And if you know the setting of this, Paul is visiting the church at Corinth, the church he established about 5 years earlier. So in a sense, this is a new product in an old world. I want you to think for a minute of new products that have come along and just kind of taken the world by storm, and then they fizzle away. Anybody remember anything that categorized in that category? Anything came along? Anybody remember Cabbage Patch? Savannah, do you remember Cabbage Patch? Okay. Just young people don't know much, so I just try to keep them, up a little bit. What about the new Pepsi? The new Coke. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember how long that lasted? And the hullabaloo that was over that because they took our bet, and Pepsi said if Coke had the best taste, why did they change it? And it was all kind of a debacle, right? Just things that didn't fly very well. Anybody remember Pet Rocks? Raise your hand if you bought a Pet Rock. Is that crazy or what? Okay. Stanley Cups. Will they last? Will it be a short timer and gone? The church at this time, I had some other ones here. Member only, yeah. Polyester. Angie, why are you hiding? I was hoping nobody remembers seeing me in a leisure suit, okay? But I was pretty cool, wasn't I? Okay, members only, and a leisure suit, long collars. If the wind caught you right, you could fly like Mary Poppins. Yeah. Perms. Okay. Steve, you weren't that cool. No. I've known you all your life, Steve. You've never been that cool. Okay. It's just what's the little doodad? What are the doodads that for a while you could not find them? The little fidgets or spinners, fidget spinner or something like that. Now again, the point is, think about the new products that came along, and the church at this time was kind of that way, wasn't it? It was a new product, a new thought, a new theology, a new way of thinking, a new way of worshiping. And so the real test, the real thought here was this: is this new and for sure and forever? Or is this just another theology that will come and go? That's kind of where Paul was here when he went back and was talking to the church at Corinth, okay? So that gets us to the first section, and that is the church is united under one leader. And that's in verses 10 through 17, again in chapter 1. Now I urge you, brothers and sisters, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree in what you say, that there be no divisions among you, and that you be united with the same understanding and the same conviction. For it has been reported to me about you, my brothers and sisters, by members of Chloe's people, that there is rivalry among you. What I'm saying is this. One of you says, I belong to Paul, or I belong to Apollos, or I belong to Cephas, or I belong to Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you, or were you baptized in Paul's name? I thank God that I baptized none of you except Crispus and Gaius, so that no one can say you were baptized in my name. I did, in fact, baptize the household of Stephanas. Beyond that, I don't recall if I baptized anyone else. For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with eloquent wisdom, so that the cross of Christ will not be emptied in its effect. Now, I kind of put the word allegiance beside this first section, because what we're talking about here is kind of who are you following? Who were the people in the church of Corinth following? Who was their leader, either officially or unofficially, in their mind? Who were they following? Now, it is human tendency to seek and build little kingdoms around differences. Would you agree with that statement or not? I mean, look at our world right now. We basically are better at building differences than we are unity, aren't we? I mean, think of, and he names here, the second bullet, leaders, baptizing, buildings, bus type. We're in the middle of that process, right? Deciding what kind of bus we're going to buy. Theology, music, priorities, carpet colors, budgets, ministries. All of those can have a tendency to become, in and of itself, something. But what Paul is trying to get the church to think and look at here is the idea that everything should cascade under the church, and that evidently wasn't happening to this congregation. Can you have different people who follow different leaders? Preacher religion has been around a long time, hasn't it? People follow the preacher. He's either right or wrong, good or bad, in the middle. We've had them all, haven't we? Can there be divisions over buildings? There can be divisions over anything. See, that's why Patsy's in my class. She's gotten smart since she's been in there. Okay? There can be divisions over about anything, right? I mean, think of the color of the carpet. Is that a big deal? No, but in some churches it's been made one, right? The shapes and the type of chandeliers, the lights that's in the facility, is that an important thing? No. Can it become important? If people make it. Think of all the differences that there can be, and think of, I mean, the world that we have. Think of music. I got music. I get a preview package of music every month or more often, it seems like. And May's preview pack was Christmas 2024. Now, we as Christians, I hear complaints about, we skip all the other, and Christmas gets here too fast. And as an industry, we are making it a May issue instead of a December issue. Now, I know you got to plan. Some people plan. I know that. But the fact is, we have made music, and I love the titles of some of it, multicultural, what's the other word? Multi-generational. Like we haven't had multi-generations forever. Hadn't there been old and young a long time? Nana and I have been talking about me getting old. And she said, how do we get this old this quickly? I said, well, it took us a long time. Yeah? So, I mean, think of anything of real importance. Now, what we're talking about here, heavenly tendency, if you look, the human, worldly tendency is to make differences, right? I mean, look at how many months do we celebrate a different ethnic group now? How many different weeks? It's some week. It's some Asian Pacific. Is that May? And I'm not slamming that. The point is that when we started, when immigration was in the history of our country, people came here from different places, but we became one. We had one language, right? And now we are, in essence, again, think of this as the term of what's happening with the church at Corinth. Instead of pulling us together, bringing us together, we're trying to be different. You can't be different. As I'm going to say, and I hope you will circle with a red pen or whatever, you can't have two first love. That's the first point on section number 2, but I got ahead of myself there. But I don't want to. You can't have two first loves. You can't think as an immigrant and be an American. Does that make sense? And now the point of this is, Paul was saying that to the church. You can't be a part of Apollos. You can't believe in Paul. You can't believe in anything. There's only your first, only love can be Jesus Christ. And that's what his message was here for the church. Because again, this is a very new church. We're 70-something years old. This church was 5 years old. You imagine the strings pulling on this congregation to get it go this way or that way or this way. And all they were doing was dividing. And Paul's message here, 1 Corinthians, is that you've got to be one. The only thing that really matters is under that umbrella of Jesus Christ. That's what this is about. So if you look down, unity comes from seeing issues from God's viewpoint, not humans. Well, I left out one, didn't I? Heavenly tendency is to seek one common. The difference in the world and the difference in the way God looks at things. So that gets us to seeing things from God's viewpoint, not humans. God is one. If you remember the phrase, that we be perfectly united in mind and thought. Now, we are a bunch of different people. Is that right? I didn't mean to look at you, Eric. Okay? All right. Okay? We're all totally different, aren't we? So how can we be in one mind and one thought? Is that possible for a group of human beings to be in one mind and one thought? That's a question. Is it possible? Yours? But we can't reach that point thinking like humans or acting like humans, can we? I mean, we have to be on a plane in a sense of where Jesus is number one, so everything we do builds to Jesus Christ. And that's hard for human beings to do, isn't it? I mean, I have preferences. There's things that there are things that I don't like goes on here. Is that okay? Ooh, I just said it, didn't I? Is that okay? Is this being recorded, Tom? Okay. Nick's reviewing it too, right? Okay. I'm in trouble. I mean, is it a requirement that we all agree on everything? We agree on Jesus Christ. That's it. And then everything builds and everything cascades down based on that emphasis, that desire to please and to be under the direction of Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's a good point. In the third section, you're ahead of me, so slow down. All right? We're going to talk. It's not the absence of problems that you're looking for in a congregation. It's how you deal with them. You're going to have problems, right? I mean, we've got decisions to make now. Think about where we are, folks. We've gone from being pretty heavy in debt to pretty heavy on the positive. I mean, at least that's the way I see some money in the bank. That's pretty positive, isn't it? Pretty heavy. So now, with those problems behind us, now our dilemma, our concern, our direction needs to be, where would Jesus Christ take us now that we're in this position rather than the old position. And it's just as important, isn't it? We need to get this right, don't we? We need to get our decisions now just as right as they were before, when we couldn't really afford mistakes. You think the Lord's looking at us, and how's Oak Ridge going to react to this situation, this need, this person who needs something? How's this church going to react? Yes, we have. Yeah. Sheila? Yeah. What we do now with our decisions will literally affect people's eternity. Now, if you say, well, government does that and we do that, yeah, all of that, decisions are important, and the ramifications and results from all of those decisions, but our decisions have eternal consequences. That's the difference in the church, isn't it? I mean, if the government screws up, I mean, normal, right? Okay? I mean, if your family messes up or makes a bad decision, that's normal, right? Who hasn't? But when we make mistakes as the church, we may affect somebody's eternal life. And that separates us from those other organizations that can mess up, make mistakes, get it right or get it wrong. That's what Paul's talking about here. What this church, the direction this church is going to go, will greatly determine where the church we know that we're a part of. Were we connected to the church at Corinth? Were we connected to this church? Have been, aren't we? Years down the road, and we may or may not have been influenced or taught or learned from this church. We are teaching other congregations behind us by what we do and how we do it at Oak Ridge. That's pretty, in Burke County, you say serious, don't you? Okay? I mean, that's serious. Okay? Angie's, you know that word. Okay, all right. Look at Christ is the source and focus of our faith. Anybody want to add to that thought of source? Christ is the source and the focus. Any ideas about the source? I'm sorry? The beginning and the end? So everything starts with Him. Should start with Him. Okay? We wouldn't have been here.
We wouldn't have been able to overcome them. Made the mistakes, but the source, He always helps us get back on track.
Y'all been looking ahead. Rob and David's both been looking ahead because that's section 3 too, Rob. So be quiet for a minute. All right? Think of that word focus. Where do we spend our time? I've heard this, and I don't know if I've dreamed it or somebody told me. Gina may have told me because she's pretty smart, and when we talk at work, she does a lot of training on me. When you are sitting still, nothing to do, nothing really pressing to think about, what do you think about? Donnie says, going fishing? Going fishing. That's not what I had in mind. Okay? Now, when you're sitting at the table, or for me, watching Hallmark, all right? If you nothing to do, nothing pressing you that you've got to look about or think about or get done in the next hours or even the next day, what do you think about?
Sitting on my back porch and looking at what God has created.
Looking at the creation. What do you think about? Anybody else? What do you think about when you've got nothing pressing? What fills your mind? All right. That's why I like my class. They have smart answers, Joyce. Okay? Okay. What else? Anything else? The point is, what you fill those blank moments, times, hours with is pretty much your first love, isn't it? when you have options, when there's nothing absolutely you got to check on, what will fill that void is your first love. Is that accurate? Is that true? So what do you think about? It's indicative. I mean, I've heard Mike say it several times, you know, check somebody's pocketbook and see where the money's going, and that'll tell you where their first priority is, right, Mike? What about our mind? What do we think about when there's nothing in there, or you have to put nothing in there? That's your first love. Right? Yeah, you whoop out your phone. Okay? Is that's kind of sick. I'm kidding. Y'all got to get the humor here, okay? Because I'm in trouble if you don't, okay? And Nana's sitting over there. She told me when we came to church this morning, this is not work. This is Sunday school, okay? So I'm trying to reel it in, all right? Now, to exalt a leader, your denomination, gosh, and folks, Baptists are kind of bad to think we got all the right answers, don't we? Don't we? And there's a question there, right? Okay. Doctrine, experience, gifts, all of those produce differences, not unity. So, again, that cascade that we're looking at here. Leaders are merely servants of God. There's a difference in pride in a leader and pride by a leader? Is there a difference there? Preachers are proud of themselves versus other people are proud of them. That is a difference. And
I think we need to be careful how we honor people in the church. Because if we cause them to have some kind, if they're overly acknowledged for what they do.
if we exalt them past what they are, and what this says is leaders are merely servants. And if they keep that servant mentality, they're going to continue to be effective in what they do. Another quote, there's no limit to what a person can accomplish if they don't care who gets the credit. That applies to preachers particularly, doesn't it? And all the credit should be given to Jesus Christ, right? Let's look at the second section, because my time is going away. United by one gospel. Now, I put the word worldly beside this one. And again, if you haven't marked, I would encourage you to, just because I'm the teacher and I'm telling you. But look at that phrase there beside it. Can't have two first loves. The differences of following what Paul was trying to get the church to do was to follow the gospel rather than the worldly wisdom. God's wisdom, as shown in Christ, is really at odds with man's wise approach. Would you agree? I mean, so let's talk about, it's going a little bit farther to the next page, the back page for you. It's my second page. Look at, think of the worldly wisdom that we have now that's in our world. Somebody name me some things that the world thinks are wise and good. AI? Dean, that scares me to death. I mean, I know the value, like anything ever created, I know there's a good side of it and there's a bad side of it. But I don't know if you read this week, there was a jet plane of F-15 or something, and it was flown with AI. I don't know about you, but artificial intelligence, but artificial is, there's no such thing as artificial, is there? It's man-made by men, and my concern is who's making it. Okay. Now, I was corrected this week, by the way. You know, I was in a meeting in Greenville, South Carolina on Thursday, and the discussion was, one of the things that we were talking to this company about was an assessment program, and my boss said, it's kind of like artificial intelligence. Well, the finance officer was sitting beside him, and he jumps out of the chair. No, it's not artificial, you know, because we were trying to sell this company on a big deal, probably the biggest deal I've ever been involved with in my company. And the boss called it artificial. That's not a good thing. So we tried to get out best we could, crawl under the carpet and get out of the door, and revamp the process or the conversation. But AI is, we think that's wise, and it is. But what else? What else? Yeah, I'm going to show my ignorance here, and that's okay, because y'all know me anyway. Bitcoin, I had that written down, and I said it wrong. All right. Savannah's having fun with this. All right. Bitcoin, if I understand it, and I don't, it's you got money, but it's not really there. It's not real money. So that's wise. Gosh, that's almost like stock market, isn't it? I mean, you got it, but you don't have it. Exactly. One coin, do away with our money, and then we can tell where you spend your money and determine if you spend your money. I think about gambling. I mean, it's here, right? Is that wise? The lottery is going to make our education system the best. Good luck with that, right? I mean, I'm sorry?
All of these things, Terry, one of my devotions, where you put, not where you put your focus, was asking, say, Lord, forgive me for desiring a place at a table that you would have put. So, if we desire and put ourselves in something that the Lord would have flipped over and said, out.
And we're desiring a place at that table.
Yeah.
That the table's wrong.
And that one, that's given a lot.
Yeah.
Where am I desiring a place Lord would have me?
Debt's not debt. Don't really matter. Okay? We'd all be better off, wouldn't we, Patsy? I mean, think of, I know Gina probably gets tired. Leave It to Beaver was replaced with Kardashians? Is there? Oh, yeah, there was a little space with that. Okay? And we got, what does Survivor teach anybody about life? Cheat, steal, lie, win. Right? Survivor. Close your ears, Nana. Bachelor and Bachelorette. Well, you can find real love there, can't you? Okay? Of course, the senior, we kind of got into the senior thing a little bit because we were seniors. We thought, we can live this too. And it lasted a month. That they couldn't decide where to live. Like you wouldn't have thought of that first. The world wisdom, is it off? Way off. And again, Paul is telling the congregation, don't follow worldly wisdom because it'll take you to the wrong table you don't want to sit at. And can you imagine, again, the pull, the worldly pull that society was having on this congregation? Because, again, this is new. Nobody really was sure this was the real thing except true believers. And that really is no difference for us now, is it? The world pulling us to the wrong side, personally, collectively, as a congregation. Can we be pulled to the wrong side of what we need to be doing at Oak Ridge? Well, of course we can. We're human beings, and that's part of it. But again, what we are looking at is to look at that pinnacle, and that is Jesus Christ, okay? I do need to move on. Look at the top of the back page, I guess, if it's yours. Abandon foolish games and focus, have chosen humility. See, what the change was, look at the society and the government and the Jews, the Hebrews, were all looking for the wrong thing, right? They were looking for somebody to come in, John Wayne, pow, 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 we're going to take over, the Romans are out, and we're going to take over the world, right? And what they got was a Savior that was humble, meek, killed on a cross. That wasn't what they had in mind, you think? That's what Paul, again, is trying, because man's ways of thinking, human wisdom, and God's ways of thinking truly do not correspond, i.e. the cross. Who would have planned for the world to be saved with a cruel cross? instead of an official office and an official, oh shoot, what's the president's plane? F-1, yeah, Air Force One, yes, thank you, Johnny. That's not the way it happened then, and I am pretty sure it's not going to be the way it's going to happen when we go to heaven. Do you? Look at the strength again. The strength. Man is impressed by strength. God is impressed by weakness, by humility. I believe Nick's sermon last week on meekness, being servant-minded rather than leader-minded. I mean, it's leadership thing is really servanthood, isn't it? You're going to lead, you're going to serve somebody. If you're going to get from the world, you got to give it back. Okay, and that's not the way the world thinks about it. For sake of time, the third section, united in one body. And this, I put the thing here about differences in unison. Now, I've kind of talked negative about differences that's in our country, but differences create, when people are in a discussion trying to make a decision, probably if there's two positions or more, then probably in the middle is the right decision, or somewhere other than that. So if you have the right thing, again, it's not the absence of issues and problems, but it's how you deal with them. And if you are able to think and work through that, then you usually create a better decision. The first bullet there in that third section, I want you to think about this a minute, because the new church was dynamic, and would you categorize Oak Ridge as dynamic? Are we a dynamic church? Okay. The church was dynamic because look at the three: the truth, the love, and the transformation. Now, what does that look like to me and you in today's world? What the truth is what? Remember Christ at the top? The love, do we have love for other people? All people? The different forms they come in? Donnie? I mean, we've allowed a few people from George Hillbrand in here, okay? Oh, right. Sorry, Pat. Okay, at least ancestrally. Okay, no, she said, don't get started. Okay, so Nana is pulling, I don't even have to look at her. She is pulling me in this direction. That marked the Christian fellowship was distinctive in a world that was void of each. Now, what about transformation? Do we at Oak Ridge, do we individually need to continue how we believe, how we think? Because the world's going to change, right? And be of it but not in it. So Oak Ridge needs to change. We just need to be careful, we individually, as well as Oak Ridge. We need to change, but we need to make sure those changes are correct under that umbrella of Christ. It all comes back to that, right? If you hear nothing else this morning, if we're under that umbrella, we're good. If we think that way, if we act that way, if we operate Oak Ridge that way, if we operate our homes that way, then ultimately we're going to be okay. Now, to Rob's point here, the second bullet, the way to victory now, as in the New Testament times, was marked by struggle, setbacks, slow growth, and time. Maturity then, as now, comes only gradually and often seems choked out by problems. I hope you remember that. A problem is really an opportunity, although that's kind of lame, isn't it? If a problem is a problem, okay, but it does give you a chance to improve and to correct and move forward. Think about, Paul wrote, this is the bullet, I'm trying to hurry here because my time's getting away. Paul wrote 1 Corinthians when the church was young, vital, and alive, and that even a vitally alive congregation will have problems. It is not the absence of problems, but how we deal with them.
I read a devotion this week from Billy Graham that he said,
with something good.
That's how you get closer to God with the problem.
That's
Not
how,
with the easy thing.
and that's how we get better as a congregation.
Yeah.
If,
If we're all in Christ, if Christ
Exactly.
is for us,
if that's the,
it's a blessing.
that's the point, yeah, if that's the point. Some of y'all don't know this, but there were times in our church in the second building that this could be on TikTok or Facebook or somewhere, because there were some tart conversations held on the front lawn after a business meeting after church. It was tart. I mean, it was rough. And because we followed where God has led us, we're here. Now, what's next? How much more can Oak Ridge do? Can we do individually? Remember, what do you think about when you got nothing to fill it up? That's your first love. So there is really no limit for us, is there? There is no limit.
I think about what we have accomplished by being a little faithful. What if we were more faithful?
Yeah.
How much more would God have blessed us if we had been more faithful?
What have we missed out on?
We've been faithful.
Yeah.
We've been faithful, but we could be.
Yep. What have we missed out on? What have you missed out on? By not being in that position that Jesus Christ wants you. I had one note here, and I want to say it. I know it's kind of going backwards, but we got dinner one night, and on the box was, listen to an animal today. What? It was on the carryout box, okay? What? Would that qualify as worldly wisdom? Okay. I'm not going to say where, Nana. I'm smarter than that. Okay.
What are you doing reading that?
It was on the top when I opened it up. Okay. All right. Any final thoughts or questions? My time's up. Yes. Duh. All right. Well, it's downhill. All right. Any final thoughts or questions? Thank you, and thank you for not asking me questions. Remember, that's the rule in here. Okay. So we are dismissed. My time is up. Okay.